I pulled up the gauge again this evening, same thing I do every single day before anything else gets my attention. Thursday, July 30th, 2026. Lake Mead sits at 1,041.19 feet above sea level. Let that number sit with you for a second. Because in July of 2022, this lake hit the lowest point ever recorded in its history, at 1,041 feet. We are less than 2/10 of 1 foot away from tying that all-time low right now. Not approaching it. Not trending toward it. One more bad week and we tie the worst reading this reservoir has ever produced. We're sitting 187.81 feet below full pool, which is 1,229 feet. This past week alone, the lake dropped another 0.96 feet. That's nearly a full foot gone in 7 days. Lake Mead is holding 7,103,000 acre-feet of water right now. That's 27% full. A little over a quarter tank, for the reservoir that supplies drinking water to roughly 25 million people across 3 states and Mexico. Every channel covering this today is going to show you that number, cut to a drone shot of the bathtub ring, and call it a day. I want to do something different. Because after years of tracking this lake week after week, I've noticed something. The water level itself isn't really what determines how badly this hurts you. What determines that is which stage of the crisis your state, your city, your utility happens to be sitting in right now. And almost nobody names these stages out loud. So let's name them. Researchers who study societies facing a collapsing resource, whether it's a fishery, a farm belt, or a river, keep finding the same pattern. People don't panic all at once. They move through 5 distinct, predictable stages. And right now, in July of 2026, we can tell you with precision exactly which stage the Colorado River just crossed into. If you live anywhere near Phoenix, Las Vegas, or Southern California, this framework matters because it tells you what's headed for your mailbox before it actually arrives. Stage 1 is denial. We lived here for roughly 20 straight years, starting in the early 2000s. The lake drops, and everybody, water managers included, tells themselves it's just a dry spell. One good snowpack up in the Rockies and this reverses itself. Golf courses stay green. Subdivisions keep breaking ground in the desert. Nobody changes a single habit, because changing a habit means admitting the problem is structural, not seasonal. Meanwhile, researchers pulling tree ring records stretching back over 1,000 years have shown that the 20th century, the exact era every water right on this river was calculated during, was one of the wettest stretches the Southwest has seen in over a millennium. We built an entire civilization's water math on the wettest anomaly in 1,000 years. Then treated the correction as a crisis instead of a return to normal. Denial is the most expensive stage there is. The only thing it costs you is time, and time is the one resource you can never refill. Stage 2 is bureaucratic shuffling. This is where the paperwork starts moving instead of water. We watched this stage collapse in real time this year. The 7 states sharing this river missed a federal deadline back in February to agree on new operating rules for the decades ahead. Arizona, Nevada, and California say they've already cut enough. Colorado, Utah, and the other upper basin states say they can't promise water that simply isn't in the snowpack. So the federal government stepped in and set its own deadline, October 1st of this year, to finalize the rules with or without a deal. Meanwhile, Arizona's Central Arizona project is already absorbing the largest mandatory cuts under the current Tier 1 shortage. That's Stage 2. In a nutshell, task forces, missed deadlines, and paper shuffled around a table, while the actual lake keeps dropping underneath all of it. We're leaving Stage 2 behind right now, this summer. We're walking straight into Stage 3. Stage 3 is financial shock, and this is exactly where we are today, down to the foot. Here's the mechanism, and it's mechanical, not political. Hoover Dam has a hard line at 1,035 feet of elevation. Below that line, 12 of the dam's 17 turbines were never built to run, period. If the lake crosses it, hydropower output at Hoover doesn't dip a little. It collapses by roughly 70%, from about 1,300 megawatts down to under 400. We're sitting at 1,040, 1.19 feet today. That's just over 6 feet above that cliff. And Reclamation's own 24-month outlook already has the lake falling to 1,031.6 feet by next April, which means the federal government's own model says we cross that hydropower threshold within about 9 months. When that hydropower disappears, utilities don't just absorb the loss. They go buy replacement power on the open market, usually natural gas, usually during peak summer demand when it costs the most, and they pass that straight through to your bill. At the same time, your water utility is paying to drill deeper wells and pump water further, because the easy water is already gone. 2 bills climbing at once, off the same root cause. That's stage 3. It's not a headline anymore, it's arithmetic on your kitchen table. If this doesn't get fixed, stage 4 comes next: technological desperation. Cities start pitching massive desalination plants down in Mexico or Southern California, paired with pipelines that haul ocean water hundreds of miles uphill into the desert. On paper, it sounds like salvation. In practice, forcing seawater through a filtration membrane and then pumping it uphill across a mountain range takes enormous amounts of electricity. The same electricity Stage 3 just made more expensive. These projects take decades to permit and build, and cost billions to finance. And that debt lands on municipal bonds and your utility bill for a generation, whether or not you're still around to pay it off. And if that fails, or simply arrives too late, Stage 5 is structural realignment. Farms around Yuma and the Imperial Valley, which grow the overwhelming share of the lettuce and leafy greens this country eats every winter, lose the water to keep planting. Pumped-out aquifers physically collapse in a process called land subsidence, and once that ground compresses, it never holds water again. People start leaving the Sunbelt instead of moving to it, and property values in water-insecure zip codes fall off a cliff. That's the full arc, from a dry summer to an empty desert. And right now, we're standing exactly at the hinge point between Stage 2 and Stage 3. So here's your actual homework, and it takes about 10 minutes. Call your water utility tomorrow and ask one direct question. How much of our electricity depends on Hoover Dam hydropower? And what's the backup plan if that supply gets cut by 70%? Then ask your city council that same question about water rates over the next 2 years. That one conversation will tell you more about your future in the desert Southwest than any drone footage ever will. I track these numbers every single day, so you don't have to guess. If this helped you understand what's actually happening underneath the headlines, hit like and subscribe so you catch the October ruling the moment it lands. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from, and which stage does your city feel like it's living in right now. I'll see you at the gauge tomorrow.